the dollar weakness hasn't been quite as extreme as what was predicted at the start of the year. There were a number of people quoted over the last few years saying that the pound now trades a little bit like an emerging market currency. So effectively what we're looking for now is that next stimulus or that next kicker to give us another leg higher. You could argue that the UK has sort of lagged behind the European Union and the States in terms of the amount of stimulus that's been injected into the economy.
And it does feel like we've just been sitting here just waiting for something to happen.
It's sort of a race between the nations at the moment.
So I thought I'd do something a little bit different today. You'll know me, or you'll have stumbled across this podcast because I'm the one that writes the morning reports, or the vast majority of the morning reports, and therefore have an opinion that you'll be aware of, and probably quite a narrow focus on my opinion being the gospel, despite how many times I get it wrong. So what I wanted to do was just invite a colleague to have a chat. This is Dan Quigley. Dan's one of our senior traders and a structured product expert. And we do have some good back and forth on the markets. So he doesn't know what I'm going to ask him at the moment. So I just thought I'd put him on the spot and see where we go. So Dan, getting straight into it, you obviously, and people have worked this out from the accent, New Zealander living in London. You've been here long enough to know exactly what's gone on with Brexit. And we've seen a bit of a sterling recovery, but we haven't seen it go off to the races yet. Or I don't think we have anyway. Have you got a view on the pound and what's going on and why we aren't at 120 on sterling euro, 160 on the dollar?
Yeah, hey Mark, thanks for having me along. Look, I think all in all the pound's had a relatively good time of it since late last year, and we have seen a fair bit of good news priced into the currency across the board. But consensus, like you say, was if we got a Brexit deal done, we were going to see 145 plus against the dollar and potentially 120s against the euro again. I think there's probably a couple of key reasons for that. At the moment, well, for one, on the other side of the equation, the dollar weakness hasn't been quite as extreme as what was predicted at the start of the year. So that's kept a little bit of a cap on the pound rallying significantly against the dollar. And there's still plenty of uncertainty out there in the rest of the world at the moment. There were a number of people quoted over the last few years saying that the pound now trades a little bit like an emerging market currency. Sure. So as long as there's risk out there globally, that could keep a little bit of a lid on things. But like I say, we have had a pretty decent move regardless of that, and a lot of that happened late last year as expectations of a Brexit deal came to fruition. And you could argue that there is actually a lot of good news already priced into the currency. Mm-hmm. So effectively what we're looking for now is that next stimulus or that next kicker to give us another leg higher.
Yeah. Do you think the government's got enough money left in the coffers or enough IOUs to be able to give us a stimulus and a kicker in the domestic economy?
Well, I mean, that's a big question, and you could argue that the UK has sort of lagged behind the European Union and the States in terms of the amount of stimulus that's been injected into the economy. Perhaps that's another reason why we haven't seen things head off to the races to quite the same extent, and that's reflected in UK equity markets as well, which haven't quite had the same pickup that we saw.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing, isn't it? I was writing a piece this morning on Netflix has lost 15% overnight, but it's still 30% up. And if you look at the S&P 500, it's so much higher than any of the UK markets at all. And it does feel like we've just been sitting here, just waiting for something to happen. Do you think the S&P and the US or global markets have to come down in order for the UK to catch up, or can we light a fire somehow and start getting back up there?
I don't think that they necessarily have to come down. I think that we probably haven't quite caught up to the level that we thought we would pre-Brexit, but potentially there's some more good news to come there that could see us outperform. But look, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be it's sort of a race between the nations at the moment in terms of who gets this rollout and this reopening right. And at the moment, touch wood, we seem to be doing okay. But I mean, look, there are, consensus, as we've said, is that the pound will be well supported, but there's some serious risks still out there at the moment. I know one that we spoke about recently was the Scottish election coming up next month, and whether or not that is actually a risk for the pound or not.